What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to the Crypto Catch-Up. Of course, your number one place to catch up on crypto. Now, look, we've been seeing a lot of developments happening over the last 24 to 48 hours. Stuff from MicroStrategy, stuff from the government. Their technicals are changing. The fundamentals are changing. There's a lot going on right now, leaving a lot of people to wonder what is happening and what, of course, we can be doing about it. And so in today's video, I wanted to give you a quick update on how everything is transpiring in the market. I know we're not in the normal setup. I'm not at home, but I will be back in about 5 days. So until then, we're going to be doing vids just like this, but I know the quality may drop, but hopefully the quality of the content is still just as good. So of course, you guys can always let me know by smashing that like button, subscribing to the channel if you are new, and let's get into it. So we got a couple pieces of news in which I want to address first, and then we'll talk about what's happening from a price perspective, because I am in a state of mind right now where I do believe what's happening from a fundamental or news perspective is more important than what the chart's doing right now, okay? So what we're seeing in the news, we got three main pieces I want to talk about. Piece of news number one was that we saw a 17-page report come from the U.S. government, basically, coming out and breaking down and giving a ton more information, and this is actually from the Treasury specifically, but they go over what are digital assets, what is tokenization, what is crypto in general, right? And these types, and look, I can actually show you, I know it's going to flip the screen a little bit sideways, so I might just have to kind of turn your head a little bit, but you can see here, U.S. Treasury drops a 17-page bombshell report on digital assets and tokenization. And guys, the reason why this is so important is because, again, it's starting to feed into the thesis that we've been developing and that we've been seeing building for the last couple months. You know, over the last few months, I have pretty consistently said that outside of what is happening from a technical perspective, I am becoming more and more intrinsically bullish on crypto, meaning that what we're seeing from an intrinsic perspective is getting better and better and better. We're seeing more value being added from the community basis, the retail basis, all the way up to the institutional basis, governmental basis, legislational basis. I mean, everything that you can think of, we're starting to see all of these different areas of the crypto world growing and becoming more valuable. And we actually saw a report, a research report, I suppose, about 2 weeks ago from Bernstein that came out, and they said that they do believe that we will see Bitcoin hit $200,000 to $250,000 by next year as a result of governments and companies starting to use Bitcoin as a reserve and things of that nature. And in that moment, I told you what you need to be looking for next to really be able to see if they're correct. Because mind you, this is a near $1 trillion company, was for countries and major companies to come out and start talking about investing into Bitcoin, to start doing things like that. And these are the steps that we've seen taken. Obviously, we talked about the fact that Microsoft had a whole bunch of developments happening internally about investing into Bitcoin and having shareholders vote on it and things like that. So we already know that's happening. And the fact that now we're starting to get even more information from the government, the Treasury, especially, it's the Treasury. You have to understand how important that is, right? The fact that they're starting to release more information and documents regarding what crypto is, what are digital assets and things like that, it can only imply, realistically in my brain, it can only imply that we are starting to see that development that Bernstein's been talking about, that I've been talking about, and many more actually happening in real time. And that is quite simply that crypto is finding its way and being implemented in every single facet of the world, from governments all the way down to retail pockets. And something like this, very important news. Now, the next piece of news that I wanted to talk about today is what we actually saw. And look, again, I'll show you here, even though it goes a little sideways. I know it's a little annoying. If we head over to my Twitter, you can see here we got another big piece of news that kind of goes into this, in which we saw the CIO of Bitwise come out and say that the US dollar does not need to collapse in order for Bitcoin to hit $200,000. Now, why is that important? Because it falls into the thesis that we've been talking about. Everybody has always consistently said that the only way Bitcoin hits 180K or 250K or whatever it may be is for, the dollar to collapse. And we're going into World War III and the dollar doesn't exist and we need to replace the dollar, and like all of these things. And I've been consistent in the sense that although I don't believe I don't think it's likely Bitcoin hits 200,000 next year, although I don't believe that, I do think it's going to get there at some given point. And I don't think it's going to take something crazy or something catastrophic to get us there. I think that just the natural route that we're on now from an adoption perspective, from retail to institutions to governments, puts us on track there. And so because of that, I love seeing news like that. Now, the very last piece of news that we got that I thought was very, very interesting, and this is just going to blow all of these other pieces of news out the water, is, as you can see here, MicroStrategy to raise $42 billion over the next 3 years to buy more Bitcoin. Now, obviously, no, $42 billion isn't going to really move the needle in the grand scheme of things, right? It's over the course of 3 years, it's not an immediate injection of liquidity, but I do believe that it is important. And the reason why I do believe that it is important is because we are destined in my opinion. Give me your opinions here, but I do believe that we are destined to see Bitcoin to some degree have the majority of its supply being consumed by major entities and governments. It's just what is going to happen. Although we all swear and scream that we want decentralization and all of these other things, quite frankly, Bitcoin doesn't really care. It doesn't really matter, particularly if Bitcoin is held the majority of the supply, and not the majority, but if a lot of the supply, 2% or 3% or whatever, is held by one entity, it doesn't really matter. It's not like this is proof of stake. It's not like decisions can be made. It's not like things can be changed. So it doesn't really matter there. But again, to get off that tangent a bit, I do believe that we're going to see major entities starting to control major portions of the supply, and seeing how bullish we have seen MicroStrategy and just seeing how dedicated they have been to consistently over and over and over again, holding through the hard times, buying during the hard times, buying during the good times, holding during the good times. They don't care. They just stick to their thesis, stick to their strategy, and are using that to outperform the S&P 500. I think what better company, what better person, if anyone is going to be behind all of these purchases, why not Michael Saylor? Why not we see a vast majority of the remaining supply start getting scooped up by someone that we know is here during the good and the bad times? Because other companies, other even countries, the moment things get bad, they're going to jump ship. It's just what's going to happen, but not MicroStrategy. It's just not in their track record. And so if someone can get through 2022 and 2023, I don't think there's anything that can really be thrown at us that we can't get through, because quite frankly, that bear market was absolutely ridiculously bad. And so because of all of these things, I do believe that this is a massive piece of news in the sense that they're not only just, sticking to the plan, they're doubling down, they're tripling down on their strategy, and they're going to consistently try to push this thing in the right direction. And when you have that sort of conviction, it just cannot be ignored. Quite frankly, it can't be ignored. And so overall, we have some great news that's come out today, as I mentioned before. Treasury dropping some information about crypto. We got, of course, the CIO of Bitwise coming out talking about his, kind of optimism about Bitcoin continuously growing. Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy coming out and predicting, raising another $40-50 billion to buy Bitcoin. Talking about a supply shock. If there's not a supply shock in the next 2 or 3 years, I'd be shocked. No pun intended. So overall, absolutely fantastic news. And again, this is just building onto my thesis and my bullish conviction that although crypto is high right now and things have gotten pretty overheated and we are at all-time highs, I still do think that Bitcoin specifically still could 2x or 3x from here within the next few years. I think a 2x from here within this bull run is likely, and a 3x over the next coming years. I think it's still very possible. I think it's still very likely. $250,000 Bitcoin is not out of the realm of possibility. And so because of that, this type of news and these types of movements just add to that bullish conviction that I have. And so with that, now I'm sure you're about to see why I don't believe from a technical perspective things are that important. So if we take a quick look at what is going on from a technical perspective with Bitcoin. Okay, let's get Bitcoin pulled up here. What you can see here is that the short-term movements actually aren't all that important. What you can see is that, yes, Bitcoin's price is pulling back, and yes, it may feel a little bit scary. But quite frankly, we knew this was possible. We knew that, look, we just broke out of this descending channel that it's been in. And when we break out of channels just like that, it's not super uncommon for something like Bitcoin to break out, come back, and back test that channel. Try to find some support. Try to build a foundation on top of that previous point of resistance. Try to flip it in some support and use that support to continue upwards. Maybe not immediately, but over the long term, right? Something along those lines. And so because of that, understanding that a back test of this nature is very likely and very possible, seeing a moment like this in which we do see Bitcoin's price start to cool down and pull back, you guys shouldn't even be all that concerned, especially if you've been on this channel for a while. This is normal. We see this happen all the time. And whenever you start to enter into macro liquidity zones like we saw up here, in which we have an all-time high resistance sitting directly above us, of course we're going to have these moments where the price is going to struggle. What else would you expect for it to do? And so in a moment like this, no, I'm not even remotely concerned. This bad boy could come all the way back down to the top side of this channel, somewhere around 66, 67K, and I'm still chilling. I'm still hanging out. Now, obviously, if we do see, say, hypothetically, Donald Trump loses the election, and then bam, the market starts to crash, and we enter back into the channel, this is when I would be way more concerned. But where we are right now, not even remotely concerned. Whenever you mix that in a little bit with what we're seeing from a fundamental perspective, I'm even less concerned with what we're seeing. Watch, if we do go out, let's go to, let me open this up here. the liquidation heat map model too. And I know it might be a little bit sideways for you, but what you can see here is there are still a ton of liquidation sitting at $73,500. And so when you pair that up with what we're seeing right now, if this market does even find some support and try to continue upwards, right? If it finds some support here and continue upwards, there's a ton of liquidation still sitting right here because people are skeptical. They still don't think that this market can go upwards. And as long as there are liquidations that will happen above us, I do believe this market will continue upwards. And so from a technical perspective, no, again, I don't really care. Don't care if its price is pulling back. It can start going down. As long as we're outside of this macro channel, the door is wide open still for a move to 100K, and I'm not going to be stressing about any of these smaller movements. And so because of that, that is why I told you my primary focus right now is what we are seeing from more of a what do you call it? Just a news basis or a fundamental basis. What is happening on the back end? That's more of what I'm concerned about. What we're seeing right now on the technicals, the price movements on the 24 hours or the 12 hours, 4 hours, don't care, couldn't care less. Doesn't make a difference if you ask me my opinion. And so because of that, I just wanted to give you a quick update on what some news that we're seeing is, what's happening with the TA, why I'm not concerned about it, and much more. So guys, let me know down below, how are you feeling about crypto? What are you buying? What are you doing? I'd love to converse with you all down there. Don't forget, while you are checking out the comments, there is some stuff in the description for you. You can trade on Margex right now. You can get up to $10,000 in bonuses without needing to KYC, meaning you don't have to tell them exactly who you are. You just sign up, start trading, and again, you're going to get up to 10K in bonuses. So make sure you do take advantage of that down below. Also have a Patreon down there if you'd like to check it out. And I can't wait to see you all tomorrow morning with another video. Peace out, everybody.